Johnson.
Speaker, I congratulate the honourable member for what has been one of a series of fantastic maiden speeches this evening. I want to stress that this speech tonight, Mr Deputy Speaker, is not a maiden speech, as I've been specifically instructed by the Speaker that whatever maiden status I may have once possessed has long since passed away. But it is an opportunity for me to pay tribute to my great predecessor in the office of MP for Uxbridge and South Ruislip, Sir John Randall. One of the kindest and wisest people in this place, and one of the very few Conservatives to have completely accurately forecast what would go wrong with the Iraq War. And you may remember that he stepped down from the front bench before the invasion with absolutely no self-advertisement, and then never gave drew any attention to the fact that he had got it so thumpingly right. And it's, by the way, a measure of his popularity in Uxbridge. At a recent hustings there, an electoral hustings, virtually every candidate stood up to claim that he or she was the true heir of John Randall. Well, they seen in Spartacus, I am John Randall, they kept saying, rather than me. And I have to accept, I am not John Randall, but I will do my best, Mr Deputy Speaker, to emulate him in his service to that constituency and to London more broadly. And we are seeing fantastic success in this city, and I'm delighted to say that Hansard will confirm, on my final appearance in this House 7 years ago, I pointed out to the then Prime Minister that I had just banned alcohol on public transport. I was interrupted at my last appearance in this House 7 years ago by the Speaker in order to sit down. I don't know what objection he had to our policy, but I now want to point out that as a result of that policy, crime on London transport has fallen by 50%. Crime on buses has fallen by 50%. We have now the safest tube network anywhere in Europe, and as a result of the continual improvements we are seeing in our city, we have the most dynamic urban economy anywhere in Europe, and I'm grateful to the many excellent measures in the Queen's speech, which I will rapidly summarise since this 12-minute oration has been compressed to 4. I am delighted that we will see stopping the madness of transport strikes being triggered by a tiny minority, something that City Hall has long since advocated. Devolution to the great economic powerhouses, the cities of England. Fiscal devolution will enable us to build Crossrail 2 and many other wonderful projects, hundreds of thousands. And I approve, by the way, of the decision to allow people to buy their own housing association homes, provided it leads to the rapid construction of more homes, more low-cost homes, and it keeps the revenue raised for investment in housing in London. I give way with pleasure to my honourable friend.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for giving it way. Can you tell us how many houses he built in London?
I'm delighted. Can I congratulate I'm delighted that he has reminded me that under this mayoralty and indeed under this government, we built far more homes than Labour did in 13 years. We have built a record number of affordable homes, and we will go on. Until May 2016 to build a record 100,000 affordable homes over 8 years. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I should say, we have thanks to the hard work, the successful work of the Conservative-led government over the last 4 years, we have a strong, dynamic, successful economy. We have a government. The most exciting thing for me, who came into politics more than 20 years ago. The most exciting thing for me, we now have a government, a Tory majority government, with a clear mandate to seek change, and therefore a government in the most powerful position in our lifetimes to deliver reform and improvement in Europe. And we can win that argument by being relentlessly positive and, of course, by making it clear that what we are advocating is not simply in the interests of Britain, but in the interests of the entire European Union. And, by the way, I congratulate the Prime Minister on the élan and the success with which he has begun his pan-European schmoozathon in the chancelleries of Europe. And I believe his efforts will be crowned with success, but I would remind him what I think all of us would want to remind the Prime Minister, our negotiators, the Foreign Secretary, everybody, that if you are going to go into a difficult international negotiation of this kind, then you have got to be prepared to walk away. If you don't get the result that you want. And I'm delighted to give way to my honourable friend.
I really feel that the next thought that my honourable friend was about to express deserves an extra minute in which to express it.
I'm obliged because it is absolutely right that if we don't get the deal that is either in the interests of this country or of Europe, then we should be prepared to strike out and forge an alternative future that could be just as glorious and just as prosperous with a free trading arrangement. I notice in the course of trying to settle this argument over the last few days, assorted speakers have invoked the memory of Winston Churchill in one way or another. And I have to tell you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Churchill is absolutely useless on this subject. He is biblical in this matter. You can find a text to justify almost any proposition about our relations with Europe that you choose. But one thing he believed in passionately, and that was in Parliament as the expression of the will of the British people. And he would want to see that democratic principle upheld today. And by the way, if in the course of those negotiations the Prime Minister wants to invite any of our partners, I'll conclude with this point, invite any of our partners to see the contribution of this country to the prosperity and unity of modern Europe, he could do no better than to take them to Uxbridge, where it is now possible to view the amazing bunker that housed Fighter Command Number 11 Group Operations Room, one of the most moving and the most atmospheric places in this country. And I'm grateful to the honourable.